we were contacted to do this ride in Stockholm. So I'm walking around this park. There's not a lot of room. This is the worst sight out. Like everyone would probably dream of like a flat space, like, hey, put whatever you want right here. But this wasn't that at all.
Roller coaster designer Korey Kiepert was standing in a theme park in Stockholm, Sweden. Surrounded by rides, no space to build, and yet the owner had invited him there for a reason.
And he's like, do you think you could do a ride here? And I think that historically, as a company, we were always kind of very cautious, like, well, we'll see, we'll do our best. And I was confident that day.
Usually, you might hesitate. But in that moment, Korey wasn't just thinking like an engineer.
In improv, they teach you a couple of things. One of them is like to agree and accept. So, like, you never say no. And then another rule is that you always try to elevate it. This sounds kind of crazy. Like, it's unlike any ride that we've ever done before. That's probably part of the reason why my hair is gray.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of No Ordinary Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Chris Barron, and each week I sit down with a guest to relive their No Ordinary Monday story. An extraordinary event or experience that stands out across their entire working life. We'll explore the path that led them there, find out what the work is really like behind the scenes, and at the end, they'll reveal the important lessons they've learned. Now, before we jump in, just a quick reminder to keep sending in your ratings and reviews. It is really cool to keep seeing them come in each week, and it really helps us a lot with getting noticed on the apps. Now, today's episode takes us into the wild world of roller coasters. My guest is Korey Kiepert, a roller coaster designer who spent his career building some of the most ambitious wooden roller coaster rides in the world. It's a job that sits somewhere between engineering precision and creative expression, where every decision is scrutinized and every project starts with two simple questions. Can this actually be done? And how do we make it unforgettable? And as you heard at the start of this episode, sometimes the answers come from surprising places. You're listening to No Ordinary Monday. Let's get into the show. Korey, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today, man?
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I mean, it's great to be here in rainy Ohio here. So good roller
Nice.
coaster building weather.
Is it really? Oh, interesting.
It is.
Yeah, is
Well,
that sort of...
they say that the postman, they deliver your letters in rain, sleet, snow. We build rides regardless of the weather. I mean, I guess if there were tornadoes
Hurricanes,
or
maybe, yeah.
or if there's lightning, like we're obviously not up
Yeah.
high, building our rides. But yeah, in general, if it's raining, snowing, whatever the weather, we're out there trying to get it done because we have to have the ride open for all those smiling
Yep.
guests,
Yep.
when the park
Clients don't
opens in the spring.
wait. Yeah, for the spring. Yeah, we're kind of in late winter here, coming into spring. Yeah, you guys are up against it. And I mean, what I didn't know until recently was Ohio is the roller coaster capital of the world. That's amazing.
Oh, we do have a couple iconic parks. We have Cedar Point, which
Hmm.
is known for their record-breaking rides. Near me, we have Kings Island, which has the world's longest wooden roller coaster, the Beast. And so, yeah, Ohio in general is sort of a hotbed for the amusement park industry.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes out of there was a park in downtown Cincinnati right on the river called Coney Island, and
Yeah.
it would flood all the time. And so, yeah, I mean, right, because the Ohio River would raise and then the park would be underwater. And so
Yep.
finally they said, let's move this park further north. And they moved Coney Island to Kings Mills, Ohio, and opened Kings Island.
Yeah.
And through that process, there are a lot of different consulting firms, or, in many ways, like even the roots of our company can trace back to the move of Coney Island to Kings Island.
Oh man,
So,
that's crazy. You're clearly a big fan of roller coasters. Do you remember the first memory of you falling in love with roller coasters? Like where does that sit in your sort of early childhood?
Yeah, so I mean, growing up in the Detroit area, my parents weren't big roller coaster people, so I didn't really ride my first roller coaster until I was probably about 12, and
Oh,
that was like yeah, it was like the Cedar Creek Mine Ride, and then
yeah,
like Avalanche Run, which later became like it was sort of a bobsled style ride, and so those were like the first ones that I rode. And later on we went a few years later, and I remember there was an article that was in a magazine, like a Smithsonian magazine, that was
yeah,
about like how rides are made. And it had Bill Cobb, which is like a famous wooden roller coaster designer, Ron Toomer, who's a famous steel roller coaster designer, and it just sort of talked about them and how they went about designing them. And I thought, wow, somebody has to do this. Why can't it be me? And so that was sort of the point where it kind of I went from every kid, loving dinosaurs, to switching into the world of roller coasters, which is better. I mean, no one wants to live in a tent digging up bones when you
yeah.
could live. Yeah, but anyway, so no, and I love math too. And I think that, like, for me, like my grandparents, I had one that was kind of in the boat building world, and another that worked in the automotive industry in Detroit,
Yeah.
sort of in engineering capacities. And so I loved tinkering. I loved seeing how things worked. And um, I just, I had a little amusement park, in my closet where,
Really?
like there's like the Hot Wheels racetracks. Well, I mean, I got one of those for Christmas once, and it's like my parents were trying, when I was little, trying to help put it together, and they like cut themselves, and they're like, this isn't suitable for kids. And so they took it away, which was really sad. I'm a kid, and I'm
Oh
like,
no.
I just got this. But
Yeah.
they got me this German racetrack, like by Darda, where you had these cars that you pulled back and they went through loops. And so they got me this set where there was an upside down jump, and you could kind of adjust the trajectory, and it would,
Oh wow.
yeah, and you could change the space, with the little sections
Yep.
of track. So
Yep.
I was
Yep.
forever, I spent hours just, adjusting that trajectory, changing the length, and trying to get it to work. And that's why next year you're going to see us have one that kind of skips the track.
I'd love to see the safety regulations on that one. The
Yeah, there's probably AI videos.
I'm
Here's what
sure.
he's working on. But
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
yeah, for me, I love amusement parks. I love and I love the classic, uh like, there's something about a wooden roller coaster that just transcends the generations,
Mm,
and it's something that everyone can relate to. And I think when you look at a bubblegum flavor or a colored steel roller coaster, you know there's immediately, like, people have an opinion, like, I'm not riding that. I don't want to do that. That goes backwards. They're immediately, like, people have like these like knee jerk reactions about those rides. Where when you
yeah.
see a wooden roller coaster, typically people are like, I remember when I was little, or grandma and
Interesting.
grandpa had that when they were at, such and such beach. There used to be something that, we'd go on, or like, there are these memories of, like, you know, that old fashioned ride. And
Is it kind of like? Is it like sort of a lot of people like analog photography or film photography versus like fancy digital cameras doing all this kind of stuff? There's like a sort of an artistry, a sort of nostalgicness and emotion that's attached to like a film for, or even like in cinema, directors like using film over digital. Is it that sort of kind of comparison?
I think that there is something like that. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. There's something about actually grilling a hamburger instead of, getting something with artificial smoke added to it, like
Yeah.
it, no, there's something, like, when you build out of wood something from the earth. I don't know. There's something raw and just mighty about it. And I think what's kind of interesting is we're in a place now in so many parts of the world where, like, the green initiative is there, and people are trying to build like high-rise buildings. They're trying to
Yeah.
do so much more with timber.
Mm.
And yet in the amusement, and the amusement park industry, here's an example of something that has used green technology for generations.
Yeah.
And like when you think about the amount of carbon and that it takes when you make steel and you're processing like all of that metal versus a wooden roller coaster, grows, like it might take 10 years or so for the tree to get to the point where that one's harvested, or longer for depending on the size. But that's taking all that carbon out of the air during that process.
Hmm.
And then you know you build it with it, you use it, and they replanted something new. It's I don't know, I feel good about a wooden roller coaster and what my impact is on the global footprint, whereas you
Interesting.
you can't really say that about all other ride types that are out there.
Interesting. Cool. Well, I want to go back because you already mentioned it. You obviously broke into the industry, from out of engineering school, did a few years, and then you obviously founded, with a bunch of engineers, the Gravity Group, which is your company.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, in 1999, I graduated from college and started work at Custom Coasters, and they were working on, I think, 7 roller coasters, to open in the year 2000. And so they needed more help on their engineering team, and I came and was able to be a part of that team, moving to Cincinnati from Michigan. And yeah, I mean that's where I met uh, Chad, Michael, Larry, and we formed like Custom Coasters closed in 2002.
yeah.
There are lots of things that happened, like 9/11 happened, and that impacted a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
And through that and other reasons, Custom Coasters closed. And so there is a day where, you know, Chad, Larry, Mike, and I looked at each other and said, "We like what we're doing. We like working together. Should we give this a go?" And
Yeah.
so you go to the bookstore, and we bought, starting a business for dummies style book. And no, we did. We still
Amazing.
have that book, but
Yeah.
and then we're like, let's give this a go. And there Larry had been in the industry for many years, and there were some parks where we were working already on a few projects. And through that, we were able to kind of grow at first as only an engineering company.
Hmm.
And then in like 2008, we grew to Gravity Craft, kind of a sister company that actually built the rides
Wow.
and our Timberliner cars. And so we're a group of ragtag people that just love, amusement parks and rides, and make it happen. And so it's been a good journey. It's not always been easy, but
Yeah.
it has been rewarding, and it's great. I sometimes, even though I'm a guy, I kind of sometimes compare the roller coaster process to like labor or giving birth, where and I know that I'm not qualified, but
Yeah.
anyways, so like when you have a roller coaster, it's sort of one of these things where you start and you feel good about, and I think that initially, like often, like if you want to have children, and you find out, you're going to have a kid, you're excited. And I
Mm.
think that's kind of how it starts with a ride. Like, I'm really excited about this ride. We sketch it up. We have a concept. And then, like you get into the construction a little bit, and there's always, like, every project has some difficulties, right?
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, I'm starting to, the morning sickness, or, it's not doing
Yeah.
so well. And, they're good and bad, but then like you feel the little heartbeat, or whatever. And then it's like, wow, this project, I can start seeing it come to life. But then as it drags on, you're like, I just want it out of me. I just want it, like, and
Yeah.
I have my wife, 4 kids. So like
Yeah. Yeah.
by the time you end a roller coaster and it's about ready to open, sometimes you're just exhausted, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, that has been quite a journey. I just want it over. And it's like when it finally starts testing, and then you start to you get to ride it, or on opening day you see people come off of it and start seeing their reactions. That that kind of rejuvenates you again, where you know,
Yeah.
because at first, like after you'd have a kid, they might be like, well, I'm never doing that again. And then like you know, over time you're like, wow, you know, this is, you hear the comments, you see people, their reactions, or you see how like people come back and they're high-fiving each other coming back from
Yeah.
the station. And I mean, internationally, I mean, I've seen it in France or China or just, you know, all over. I mean, there's this universal kind of euphoria that people
Yeah.
have when they're coming back after an experience. Because I mean, the purpose of a ride, right? There are many things that it should do, right? It should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it should be somewhat terrifying at times, like like even if it's a you know, a 10 meter, 30 foot tall ride, if you're a 4 year old or 5 year old riding this, pretty
Yep.
terrifying. Like that's like you can be having your first roller coaster experience as a family together, you know, and it can be like, I have this picture, I should send it to you,
Yeah.
of like I've got I've got three of my kids kind of sitting on this ride, Rorosaurus, where, you know, 30 feet tall, roughly 10 meters, right? And one of them, the oldest, my daughter, she's like 12 at the time, and she has this like terrified joy, like look on her face. And then like her younger sister, who's like, I don't know, 10 and a half or whatever, just kind of like, she could be sitting on the sofa at home, you know. And then her one younger brother, he has this like look of like, it's like sheer terror, like what's going, like just kind of holding on to me going down the hill.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a successful ride right there, you know,
Yeah.
because
All the
you
emotions.
you got all the emotions right there. And I don't know, like what you want is, you want an experience that's worth repeating, worth, you know, if the if people get off of the ride and they say, I want to do that again, or now I want to try the back seat, I did the front seat, that's success. Nothing is as rejuvenating as standing like on the exit platform of a ride. And I did that. We had to ride the Bobcat that opened at Six Flags Great Escape like 2-ish years ago. And I was there close to the 4th of July, big holiday in America. And, you know, all sorts of families and kids in the park. And I was there watching the ride, and I just loved seeing I mean, it was entertaining just to see people come back. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
you know, and some of these rides, my children have been the very first, you know, kids
I
to
was
ride the ride.
I was
So,
going to ask you that, like, you know, if you finished the ride, like, I'm sure, like, you know, you've completed the structure, you've done your safety testings, you've probably put like maybe dummies or some sort of tests on there before any human. But then after all that's done, it's all passed. Are you sometimes the first living human to ride the ride?
I am, yeah, I was the first living, I was, yeah. I mean, when we did the, one of
Wow.
our recent rides, I was the first human to ride it. But yeah, I mean, like anything, like there's
Yeah.
a commissioning procedure that we have,
Yeah.
certain number of laps, inspections, accelerometer, G-force testing. And so you go through all of that. Yeah, I mean, you have water dummies and different scenarios. And then you get to the point where you're starting to test with real live people, with operations teams, different things. And if it's a small park, there have been some opportunities where, you know, family members or the construction team are among the first people
And
to
what
to
I can't
ride
decide
the
whether that's like a privilege or a luxury or sort of like a duty for some people to be like,
well,
you know.
I don't know. I mean, in ancient Rome, right? Like if an engineer designed a bridge, the Roman army would have the engineer and his family kind of crouch under the bridge. They'd be under the bridge, and then the army would march across it. And if they if the bridge survived, you know, there would be another generation of engineers
Oh
for
my God.
designing the
Is
bridge.
that true? I'd
I
have to look. I'm going to look that up.
You look it up. I mean, I heard that. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, I
So
I
the
thought
rule,
I thought that might have been something they told me on like day one of engineering school, and
yeah, it
I
makes sense.
I
Yeah.
was still listening that day. So
So it's like you finish your roller coaster. It's like, okay, the first people going to ride the roller coaster are you and your family. And if you guys don't make it, then,
then yeah. I mean, it seemed it's logical.
oh my
No, but
God.
I mean,
Yeah.
obviously there are a lot of checks and balances, and
Yeah.
safety is the number one, like above anything that we do. Like
Yeah.
safety is our number one goal, and that's sort of a partnership, that you make with your clients, the parks. You like we design the rides, right, and we build the ride, and then they're the caretakers of the ride, and it's
Hmm.
sort of like I like to tell parks that you you have custody of the child now that we birthed together, but I still have some visitation rights, and, you, and no, but I mean ultimately, like I want to check in and make sure you're taking
Sure.
good care of my kid,
Yeah.
and that's like every ride that we do is special, and I think that the people that we work with understand that like it's not just about numbers and getting guests through the turnstiles. I mean that's important, but like safety has to be the number one goal, and you have to do certain things every day and check those things, and that's why I can sit here and say, yeah, amusement parks, it's safer to for me to go to my amusement park and roll around that than it is for me to drive to my neighborhood grocery store probably.
So you've I think how many? I was reading that you've done about 30 odd coasters so far, give or take.
Yeah, I mean at Gravity Group I've been a part of about 30. Yeah.
And I guess the reason I ask is because on the show, we always ask a guest to come on and relive a sort of what we call no ordinary Monday story. It's kind of like, and you've probably done you've done 30 plus of these coasters, but I'd love if you could sit down and just share one of these stories and experience that really stands out as something that's really special, and sort of walk us through that experience.
Yeah, I mean there's one that stands out. I mean, it's near and dear to my heart. Um, there was a time where a park in Stockholm
Hmm.
approached us and they said, "Hey, we really like some of the stuff that you're doing, and you have this like ultra compact ride called a Splinter, and maybe we'd like that at our park." And so I said, "Yeah, I'll come and visit you." And at the time, my wife, we started like I started this business, the Gravity Group, with three other guys, and my wife said, you need a hobby, you need to do something else, right? And so there was a group that was doing like some improv classes, and so I did I do this like one or two evenings a week, right? And so at that time we were contacted to do this ride in Stockholm,
Hmm.
and so I went there, and I wasn't at this time. I wasn't much of a world traveler. I'd been out of the country a little bit, but not like I do now. Like, and so I went there and got off the plane, and I'm like, well, now I got to get to the park, whether it's taxi. I took a bus into the city, and it was kind of like everything that was like slow and wrong I did that day. But I got to the park, and the owner, we were walking around the site, and Grinnelland is it's on this island, and it's very compact. I mean there are a lot of things going on when you're there.
Yeah.
If you look at a picture of the park, they have a lot of towers because they have a lot of like vertical rides.
Yeah.
They have drop towers, couple drop towers. They have like a big swing ride, but there's not a lot of space. They have a roller coaster that's kind of like, instead of being spread out here, it's like on its side, a Zack spin
Oh
coaster they
wow.
call it. But so I'm walking around this park. There's not a lot of room, and he's like, "Can you do a ride?" And now in improv, they teach you a couple of things. Like there are some rules every time you're doing improv that you got to follow. One of them is like to agree and accept. So like you never say no.
Yeah.
You not like that's just a rule, right? You
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
say no. Agree and accept. And then another rule is that you always try to elevate it.
Yeah.
Like yes and. So he was like, can you fit in a ride here? And I was like, yes.
Out of
Even though there's
instinct.
no space. No, I mean there was like literally like the one area where he was showing me there was like a little flat carnival convoy ride or something. Like, it was really small, right? And he's like, "Do you think you could do a ride here?" Yes. And then I was like, "And I think it could be like this tall, like it could be like 15 meters tall or whatever." And so I kind of was like very
God.
positive, like, yes, I can do that. And I think that historically as a company, we were always kind of very cautious, like, well, we'll
Yeah.
see, we'll do our best. And I was confident that day. And it was kind of when you're walking around a site, like they had the ride that we ended up designing there, Twister, goes over, under, and through a couple other roller coasters. Like they
Oh my
had
God.
an old fashioned ride, like a 1980s Schwarzkopf ride called Jetline. And then they had a Vekoma, like suspended ride where you're kind of, your legs are dangling, called Kvasten. There was a wild mouse roller coaster kind of right in that vicinity.
Oh
And then
wow.
they had this flat ride called a Magic Carpet that kind of goes around. And they had a dark ride building. And so,
Jeez.
yeah. And so this is the site that I had.
And so like at that point, is your improv on the site, is your improv brain the one that's driving the conversation, and your engineering brain is kind of going, uh,
Well,
you know,
yeah, I mean, and I think like we've all like, isn't there like like there's the Jim Carrey Yes Man movie, right? Where he's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
agree to everything and see where it takes you. And like improv is to a certain extent has an element of that, right? And so there were like I could visualize like how a ride could be. It would be like, yes, I can fit a ride here, and I think the high point of the lift could be up there near the that wild mouse track right there.
yeah,
And so it became something where you walk around and in a way, and this sounds kind of crazy, like this is the worst site out. Like everyone would probably dream of like a flat space, like, hey, put
yeah,
whatever you want right here. But this wasn't that at all, right? And so you just start thinking like, well, if I put my high point here, there are these two columns, and that's the perfect distance apart for our loading station. That's about the length to get the lift hill. And the ride sort of designed itself. And the owner, he Johan wanted something where they were going to redo their boardwalk and wanted maybe some stands with like an airtime hill. I'm like, this could work. And then there's this dark ride, the Blatoga, that had the blue train, I guess is what it means in Swedish. But
yeah,
there is this like arched entrance to it, right? And I thought, wow, what if we put like an airtime hill over that? And they knew that the Blatoga building was like super old, and they were going to tear it down and build something new. So like what kind of transpired was this ride where like I don't know, like half of it's on top of this dark ride building, and then the rest of it kind of meanders through the park, is on bridging, and it's unlike any ride that we've ever done before, but it's such a special ride too. And Peter Osbeck, um, one of the folks in the technical department at the park was like, this is the most twisted twister ever made, and it's true because there's so much that was going on in that ride. And that was, they had a 3D scan of some of these other roller coasters and things, and at the
yeah.
time, like 3D scans were pretty rare, and there was just a lot of things to dodge. And that's probably part of the reason why my hair is gray. How
Yeah, I
was
think
that
I saw
ride?
like a
But
YouTube video from a couple of years ago. You had much less gray hair than you do now.
I know it's rides like
It's
that.
distinguish. It's distinguishing, man. It's distinguishing.
But and then like they wanted the ride white structure as well, which
Wow.
whenever we do a ride, it tends to be the worst winter in like 100 years. And
Yeah.
like when we did the ride in Sweden, it was no different. So it's a white structure. We have like plates, and there's snow that's white, and
Oh,
it's
jeez.
so easy to lose like steel under like drifts of snow, or it's like, yeah. But
Oh my
anyways,
God.
it it was a crazy project. And there is a trip, when we're working on rides overseas, most of the world, is an advanced civilization that uses the metric system.
Of
And
course.
and we,
Yeah.
we did we, yeah, and we don't in America, right? We're inches and feet and slugs. And so No, the slug is a thing. But anyways, like we're over there. Um, we're used to like using our English inches tape measures.
Yep.
And in Sweden, actually, carpenters, you can get inches. But if
Hmm.
you bought like a tape measure in Sweden, the inch might be off by a 16th. And so
Oh,
what we,
wow.
yeah, I mean, there's just slight variation, right, between manufacturers or whatever. It should be standard,
Yeah.
but who, I don't know, made in China or whatever. But anyways, so we found that like as a company, we have an official tape measure that like whenever there's a job, we use that. And they
Yeah.
they had dropped a few and I was taking some over, but in my haste, like I had a plane to catch. I tried opening it with a box cutter and like sliced my leg. Which yeah, I mean, so yeah,
Oh,
I mean, and no one was home, and then they come home and like my little kids are like, "Daddy, why are you on the floor bleeding?" But it was not great. So I go to the hospital, and I'm
it's
like,
like
I got
nick
a
an
plane to
artery.
catch. Yeah, well, it was close. It was close,
Oh,
but I'm not
wow.
quite. I was I'm not that good. So I go to the hospital. I'm like, hey, I need a few stitches, and then I got a plane to catch in like 2 hours. And they're like, you're not going anywhere. And I'm like, uh. So that was an interesting call to make to the owners to be like, hey, I'm delaying my trip by a day, but
Oh,
I'm
just a
still
day.
alive.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it was yeah,
I mean, there
yeah.
you go.
But
The imperial
anyways,
system almost killed you. I mean,
it did. I was inches from death.
there you go. I mean that's an amazing. So that I mean, again, I'm going to for anyone listening to it, I'm going to put these photos up on our socials, and anyone watching, obviously, I'll try and cut these images into the thing. But like that very small space that you're designing in, like had that been, especially for a wooden coaster, I can imagine it's a little bit easier when you're working with steel to like almost fuse and weave your ride through other rides. But had that been done lots with a wooden coaster?
Well, okay. So as a company, like we're creative engineers, and we wanted to make a better wooden roller coaster car.
Yeah.
And most wooden roller coaster cars to date, they're like big boxes with four wheels. And when you go around a curve, they would
Mm,
just kind of stop. They'd stop sign. It would be like
yeah.
hexagon around. And so we developed a car that could actually steer. It had a tie rod system. It worked kind of like your automobile, where you can smoothly go around a curve.
Yeah.
And when we did that, we designed something that instead of going through, something that was like I don't know, like a seven or like a 9 meter radius or what, like we wanted something like a lot of rides. It's like it has to be a 20 some foot radius minimum. And so instead of being like that 6 meter radius, we were like, let's make that smaller. Let's go to like a 3 meter radius, like a 9 foot radius. And so we designed something that could make tighter turns.
Yeah.
And that's what allowed us to do a ride like the Grunneland ride in a tight space, because otherwise you spend so much time just like making a turn to get to the lift hill. And that's like so
Yeah.
much track length.
Yeah.
And so by having a different car, a different approach, we were able to make a very unique ride experience. And since that time, you know, we've certainly made a lot of compact family rides, and we've showed that you could kind of pack a punch into a tight space. And
Amazing.
yeah, it's been great. And so yeah, the ride, and I have it as the background on my computer, just like all the different rides that we're going over, under, and through there. And yeah, I mean, Gruneland and Twister, just a very, very special part of my life. And I mean, I love everyone at the park in Sweden. They're sort of like
Yeah.
extended family.
Amazing.
And when you live through a project that's that complicated, if you, I think the key difference, if you know that you're going to work together toward a common goal and all parts are functioning well,
Yeah.
that draws you closer. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that in any situation you can say, hey, are we working together, or are we opposing forces? And when we do a project, I like to say that we're part of a team. We're all on the same side. We
Hmm.
all want safety, and that goes for like the third party reviewers and everyone.
Sure.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
ultimately, we're all on the same side. We all
Yeah.
have the same goals.
Yeah.
You just might be hired by someone differently.
Yeah.
but we're not on opposing sides. And yeah, that's sort of my approach with a project.
What I love is that, with the aspect of I think what it is, but that sort of balance between engineering precision and that just sort of creativity and creative expression. Because obviously, when it comes to a bridge or a building, you need to have that creative, but even more so with a ride. And I wonder, walking into that situation, and if you remove the improv, comedy, you were just, Korey without all that improv sort of bouncing around your head. Do you think you would have thought about that situation differently? Would that ride be different today, do you think?
Yeah, it'd be different. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that you can see a little bit of our personalities in the rides. And I can see, when I look at some of the different rides, I can see the different personalities of the different people in our office shining through as well. So like I love airtime, right? So I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to get every bit of like nice, straight, uninterrupted airtime that I can get into a ride, where I know that other people in the office would try, hey, I can do some twisting airtime, or I can do this. And I'm, you can tell probably how someone's going to design a ride based on what
Mm.
flavor of potato chips they buy at the store. And, and I mean, for me, like, I'm an original salted guy, so
Yeah.
I like the classic. But,
Okay. Yeah.
Chad, if he's in China, Chad might buy prawn flavored Pringles, and I'm like, prawn, really? But yeah, I mean, to me, every ride's unique, and every ride has a good story. Like, I could have sat here and told you about any of a half dozen different rides that I've worked on.
Yeah.
There are always, there's probably a book's worth of stories for our different rides.
There you
So
go. Yeah.
it's crazy to me that they make like reality shows about people that make duck calls, but not something that's as crazy as a wooden roller coaster. Because I mean, everything that we do,
Yeah.
it's a new cast every time. But hey, who
Absolutely.
am I?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what do you, I mean, again, maybe this is a little bit of a bigger question, but if you had a blank check and anywhere kind of terrain, like what would be the dream ride that you would design?
Wow. For me, it would not be the tallest, largest ride in the world. It would
No?
probably be something. Yeah, it would be. I would probably do like a 2,000 foot, like 80 foot tall, 2,000 foot long ride. So when you design a ride, you want to have some terrain where you can kind of drop down and kind of shock people like, oh, I thought we were up here. And then you drop into a tunnel or drop, down a hill into a certain spot. And so,
Hmm.
before I started working in the industry, the Raven at Holiday World was probably one of my favorite rides in the sense that it's not the largest ride in the world,
Yeah.
but it was kind of compared to like the Beast at Kings Island, which is the largest wooden roller coaster, as sort of it showed that you could make an iconic ride that was small. And like the Wooden Warrior that we have, that I think I brought that up earlier in Connecticut, that's like 10 meters tall,
Yeah.
1,200 feet long. So what's that? 1,200 feet is that like 400 meters or whatever?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like a little ride, but that there were high schoolers that wanted to ride that over and over. I mean, it was just fun. And I think for me, I don't need to be flipped upside down. I don't need to go backwards. I like I like nice airtime. And if I had something in my backyard every morning, have a cup of coffee and
Private
get
coaster in the
get
backyard.
and get some good airtime, and that would be it. It wouldn't. You don't have to be, you know, 30 meters, 100 feet tall. Like you just, I don't know, small but mighty.
Interesting.
It, it's like fine dining. Like I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
you just you don't need a huge amount to have that like exquisite taste.
Quantity over, or sorry, quality over quantity kind of thing,
I think
Because
so.
you've got places like, there's big parks being designed in Saudi Arabia and China, I'm sure, and they're all, going for, here's the world record breaking thing, and it's going to be diving through a mountain, it's going to be doing this, it's going to be, you're probably wearing, augmented reality goggles at the same time. Like, all these guys are pushing the limits, but are they missing a trick in some respects?
Well, there's a place for big, right? There's
Yeah,
a place for something audacious and big.
yeah,
And I think I love, like, we work on some of those, and those are great projects. But, like, often when you do one of the world's largest of something, you, you get off of it and you might ride it again, but you might need a little bit of a breather before you do that, you know? And
mm,
I mean, for me, I'd like to be able to marathon it, like over and over. And no, like, I mean, like when I was at the Bobcat
mm.
over like the 4th of July or whatever, there were people and they're like, oh, wow, he designed that. And so they asked if I would ride with them. And I did. And I could do that all day, like
Wow,
it was just kind of, a fun experience. And that, I think for me, I'm afraid of heights too, right? So that could
wow,
influence why yeah, I don't
interesting.
really like being, yeah, a 10-meter tall ride, great.
Yeah,
30 meters, getting a little
40.
scared. And if I, yeah, don't like, I'll let someone else in the office inspect that
And
one.
I bet you expect them as well. Do you have to go up there with your harness and get up there on the structure?
I do.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's one of those things where, love, hate, and you do it, you power through it. We survey on rides, to make sure that the center line, the track's in the right place. And like, we'll get data on old rides. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm up there with equipment and just, yeah, it's not like you're just going for a walk and you have your harness. Like, you
Yeah.
got like 12 different things with you and you're trying to take measurements and take pictures and do this. And hopefully your cell phone doesn't fall. So, uh, it has, but
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
so far so good. But yeah, no, when I'm wearing a harness, that's sort of like, it gives me some confidence,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it doesn't mean I enjoy it.
It's so
So
funny. Yeah. I love it's going back to that, because I would always, again, I'm not a huge roller coaster guy, but I would assume that the one that has the biggest lines is the one with the biggest drops, the highest speed, the whatever. But I think there is something lovely to say about, it's not all about that. There is almost something like a deeper emotional thing of an experience that isn't just all fireworks and explosions and da, 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 da. There is something almost like unwritten and subconscious of like riding a ride that, it has something, I can't even find the right word for it, and I think, is that what you think really distinguished like a great ride from a legendary kind of ride, maybe?
I don't know. Like, Space Mountain, they
Yeah.
say, is only going like 30 miles per hour, but because you're in the dark, because there are things flashing by, it seems like you're going so much faster, right? And
Mm,
so, like with a wooden roller coaster, sometimes when you're going through the structure and you see like structure around you, or it looks like you're gonna have a head chopper, I think that those effects can be just as good as, the virtual reality, or some of those other
yeah.
things that are out there. However, I did do a ride though that did have augmented reality where you could kind of see things around you as you were
Wow.
riding the ride.
Yeah.
And to me, like, I often get dizzy when I'm in virtual reality or whatever, but the augmented reality was pretty cool. I mean, you could look at the person next to you, but then you saw some effects coming through as well. So I think that there is a place for some of the new technologies, some of the bells and whistles, but we're all still trying to figure out how to best implement that. And
Yeah.
as the headsets get lighter, as the ability to make the graphics gets better as well, I
Yeah.
think that you will see more of that in the industry, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think that it'd be perfect for some of our little family rides too. So I don't think you need to be, you know, 80 meters tall and like crazy. I mean, like some of the crazy stuff that just opened in at the new Six Flags Kitty. I mean, it's impressive, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. But I don't know that it's not necessarily like for families, like it's not. I've got a 4-year-old that I brought to the park to entertain today. Like, you don't want to leave him
Yeah.
and go stand in a 4-hour line to do
Jeez.
something that's over in 40 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, to
Interesting.
me, the best day that I have with my kids is one, I have a lot of different experiences. I have some good food, and we laugh and make memories. It's
Yeah.
like, what kind of face did you make when you saw the camera going over the hill on
Yeah.
that ride? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
it's the little things that you remember. And the rides they're icing on the cake, really.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, talking about future and legacy stuff, like, I think some of the rides that you have designed and built, and they may very well like outlive you in a way. These things might be there for decades to come. And how do you feel about leaving something on the planet that is going to be bringing that joy you're talking about, kids jumping off, in 50, 60 years time, maybe, and still having that amount of pleasure from something you've designed?
No, I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, I think when you look at any of the monuments, whether it's like the Eiffel Tower, like Gustav Eiffel, like, what were his thoughts, when people associate that with Paris? Um, I don't know, when we do a ride, I'm proud of everything that I've been a part of as a team, and I think it'd be great if my grandkids rode something, or my great grandkids.
Yeah.
And, we're certainly, as a company though, like, we're always trying to innovate and do something new, and
Yeah.
even with wood. And so, like, we're like, it used to be that, the wooden roller coaster was made with people with saws up in the air, and now
Yeah.
we're pre-cutting everything. And that's giving a better ride experience that should last longer. And I don't know, like, I'm excited to show that next generation that fun ride. And I mean, we've got some new rides coming next year that I'm really excited about as well, that hopefully, really knock the socks off of people.
Are you allowed to
So,
talk about them yet? Or are they still
well,
NDA?
I mean, one of the rides has been announced. We're working with, Martin and Vlemmick's rides on a new wooden roller coaster at Magic Land, right
Where's that?
outside of Rome in Italy.
Oh, wow.
So,
Nice.
yeah, I'm hoping to, get some new pasta recipes and get some inspiration. I love to cook as well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to going to Rome and seeing that ride. And
I,
certainly that's going to be a unique wooden roller coaster for Europe, and it it's been a challenge so far. I mean, there's it's a big earthquake seismic zone,
yeah.
and so, there's been a lot that we've had to take into account with the earthquakes in the design so far. So, but yeah, we're like, that ride's set to open next spring, and so we're deep in the design and manufacturing of that ride already.
I just have this image, the Sweden Stockholm thing, was inspired with your improv and stuff, and you then going. I have this picture of you going to Rome and Italy. The design being, you're sitting down to like a bowl of like spaghetti or something, and seeing the parabolas, and you're like, oh, and
Oh
now
yeah,
you're
there.
inspired by a bowl of spaghetti.
Yeah, no, yeah. This ride, one of my partners, Chad, it's been kind of his inspiration mainly.
Got it.
I've had the pleasure of doing some of the structural calculations, which to me, I
Yeah,
I enjoy that as well. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's I I mean, for us, you know, as an engineering team, like, we all have little bits and involvement in every project. And so, we're doing some refurbishment here at Kings Island on the Beast this year. We've got other work going on at some other parks, and I'm just excited to, number one, help preserve rides for the future, and number two, push the wooden roller coaster forward, with some new
Yeah.
technology and new things that we're doing. And I mean, when we push the wooden roller coaster forward, we're keeping it wooden. whereas not ever. No, I mean, there are some people where they're like, we're going to call it a wooden roller coaster, but we're going to make the track out of steel. We're going to make
Oh,
it,
yeah.
you might think it's a wooden roller coaster by the way it looks, but
Yeah.
there's this big hunk of steel that's really at the core. And we try to be like, clever little engineers that are using wood more smartly,
Mm.
So we do inversions with a wooden track. We do things
Wow.
that are just, people look at it and are like, I wouldn't have thought you could do that with wood. And so we
Yeah.
use a little bit of steel, but yeah, our main ingredient is still wood, which is
Amazing.
cool in my opinion. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean it's sort of like we make whole grain pasta, not just pasta. I don't know.
I mean, just sort of wrapping up here in terms of one of the last questions I love asking guests, being so successful in their careers is for anyone listening, who they might be 17, 16, 17, enjoying maths and engineering, or they could be in their 30s and be like, I'm an engineer and I build bridges, but I've always wanted to be in roller coasters. For anyone listening that would love to follow in your footsteps, get into this kind of field, like what kind of advice would you have for people?
Yeah, I mean it's a terrific industry. It's a close knit industry. There are some good trade organizations like the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions, IAPA, and they have trade shows where you can go and meet different ride manufacturers, meet people from parks, and just get to know the industry. If
Yeah.
you're young, they have like they have a program where you can be like a trade show ambassador.
Oh,
Like
wow.
my daughter, yeah,
Yeah.
no, my daughter was a show ambassador in China this last summer, and
Wow.
like it's a great program, right? Because she met all sorts of people in the industry, and she helped with kind of the coordination and some behind the scenes things going on
Yep.
at the trade show, and so it's sort of a win-win, like IAPA, they need people to help,
Yep.
um, with the operation of the show. And if you have these young, enthusiastic people that are willing to do that, like, but want to be in the industry and want to learn more, it's really a great opportunity. And
And
so
meeting
that
people
that
as
did not
well.
exist for me.
Networking.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I just sent resumes out, and I visited some of the trade shows, but now they have like universities. A lot of them have like theme park engineering groups. Uh,
Is there a
there are a
degree
lot of
you can
different.
do? Can you do like a university degree in roller coaster design?
I don't know of that. I mean, there are some schools where they have like theme park management in Orlando, and also
Okay,
I
yeah.
think Bowling Green State here in Ohio had a partnership with Cedar Fair, which is now Six Flags, and I think that's ongoing. So there
Interesting.
are some things on the management side of things.
Yeah.
If you want to design a ride, you probably want to be an engineer, but the
Yeah.
the industry it's filled with engineers and architects and planners and project managers. There like I think so many people think, oh, I want to be in the parks, I need to be an engineer. If you're an artist, like there are people that do the theming for the
Yeah.
rides. If you're more of an architect, like there are people that do planning of parks and what rides go where. If you want to design rides, yeah, I mean there's me, but there are people that do electrical engineering that are like, I want to program the rides and make
Yeah.
sure that I can keep this train safely away from this other train while it's on the track. And I mean, we need all of that in the industry. And so I think the amusement park industry, it's like a city, right? If you go to an amusement park, like they have their own safety department, they have their own, like, some of them have weather stations where they're monitoring
Of
like
course, yeah.
lightning strikes, and because I mean if the weather gets, they need to know before weather gets bad that it's coming,
Yeah.
and so you basically have a city. You have plumbers,
Yeah.
electricians. Every
Catering.
amusement park
Yeah,
is,
everything. Yeah.
yeah, it's like
Crazy.
an airport. They're
Yeah.
their own little cities.
And for someone who is an engineer already, they might, again, be mechanical engineer building bridges or buildings or whatever it might be. Is it a skill set that can translate into this, or like how easy would it be to switch if you kind of wanted to make a switch?
I should say it's very difficult, right? Because that would help my job security. No, no, no. I mean, it's all the same principles, right? And
Yeah.
that's why when they write the physics or the dynamics books, like they always have the roller coaster examples in there. And so
Yeah.
it's it's something where I'm not a rocket scientist, but I'm using a lot of the same principles like from engineering school, finite element analysis to make sure that my stress analysis, or I do like matrix methods for my structures. Like there are I'm using all the same skills. It's just it's like a supermarket, right? You go to a supermarket and you can make Italian food, you can make Indian food, Chinese, like you can make all these different foods by, a
Different
lot of the
ingredients. Yeah.
recipes. Like I might make my Texas style chili that has cumin in it, but I might make an Indian dish that has cumin in it too, And so I'm using the same tools,
Yep.
but it's how you use them. And the same is true with engineering, right? It's all ingredients and
Yep.
I'm going to take this beam and this size and I'm going to, do it this way.
Interesting. So yeah, so it sounds pretty transferable. There's a lot of similarities, whether it's a bridge or a coaster. So that's fascinating.
It's just my roads have a lot more banking.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit steeper, a little bit more undulating than a bridge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Korey, listen, it's been absolutely wonderful chatting with you, and thank you for all these stories. And at the end, I always like giving the opportunity to tell the world where to find you if they want to find more information, what you've been up to.
Yeah, no, I'm here at the Gravity Group. You can find us at thegravitygroup.com. If you just search Gravity Group, I think it's a marketing firm in Virginia. So
Oh.
we're the Gravity Group. And yeah, no, I mean I'm personally I'm on LinkedIn. I always love connecting with people. And yeah, I mean we love wooden roller coasters, like,
Yeah.
and so at the Gravity Group, you'll find us, we got rides in Australia, Europe, China, Asia, and America. We're we're trying to,
Have you
hit all the continents here,
have you got
right?
a list of your rides on the website that people, if they're in these various countries, they might be able to go visit your rides?
We do, yeah. I don't know how
Nice.
updated it is,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, we're busy engineers,
Of course,
we
yeah.
we're not necessarily updating the website as much as we should. But yeah, I mean, connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Shoot us an email from the website. We always love doing new things, and you never know, when like someone might say, "Hey, I'd love to build a park," and we could do
Yeah.
that. Like we helped. Uh, in Ireland, we were working with like it was Tato Park at one time. Now it's Emerald Park, but they were like a zoo, and they're like, we might want to ride, and they were associated at the time a little bit with a potato chip or crisps brand, and yeah, we'll do whatever,
Love it. Cool. Korey, listen, lovely, lovely to speak with you, and
All right.
great to hear your stories. And we'll speak to you soon.
All right, take care. Thank you so much, Chris. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. A big thanks again to Korey for coming on the show and sharing those stories with us. Hopefully, some of you out there can go and ride some of his roller coasters. And of course, a big thanks to everyone listening as well for supporting the podcast. You can find out more about Korey's work at www.thegravitygroup.com or check out his links in the show notes. And for audio listeners of this show, these episodes are also available on YouTube, which includes clips and visuals from the stories. And these visuals will also be posted on our socials. We are No Ordinary Monday Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And for everything else, head to noordinarymonday.com. Next week on the show, I sit down with Brianna Evergin. Brianna has built her career in Hollywood, starring in films like Step Up and working across the industry from a young age. Her career took off quickly, with opportunities lining up one after the other. And just as things were hitting their peak, she made a surprising decision to walk away and follow a completely different path. Today, she's based in Africa, where she runs a conservation organization focused on protecting ecosystems by investing in the people who live alongside them. Tune in next week to find out what sparked that shift and what she's faced to find success in this new path. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, there are 4 simple ways that you can support the show. Number 1, follow or subscribe on your podcast app. Number 2, leave us a quick rating or a short review. Number 3, share the episode with a friend, a colleague, or maybe a family member. And then number 4, support the show at buymeacoffee.com/noordinarymonday. Any one of these things helps us keep the podcast independent. We can avoid adverts for you guys, and it also allows me to keep bringing you great guests and great stories week after week. And that's it for this episode. This podcast is independently produced, hosted, and edited by me, Chris Barron. Thank you so much for listening. Take care, and we'll see you next Monday.